Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS and betting preview for this week's US Open. Gonna get you ready for everything you need, both on the betting and the DFS side of things. But first off, we'll look at the golf course and my modeling and the key stats I'm using to identify those top plays. And then afterwards, we're gonna go through my top pieces of exposure, both from the fantasy side with my Draftkings core plays and values to help you save some salary down towards the bottom end of the board, a few diamonds in the rough per se, and of course my outright betting card and some top 5 and top 10 bets I've already mixed in as well, so you get a good sense for exactly where my money is going and how I'm approaching what is going to be an absolute epic week in Pittsburgh. So a lot to go through here. It's not waste any time at all. It started off with first off a look at our modeling and what I'm looking for in my players. If you haven't already seen my course breakdown, I am pretty familiar with this track, being from the area and having played it a couple of times, but this is an all-around test. You really can't fake it in any one of the categories, whether it's around the green. You're gonna have plenty of missed greens this weekend with the real difficult greens and surrounds. That is going to be a test. The greens themselves running at 14, 15 on the stimp meter are of course going to lead to some carnage as well. And with the church pew bunkers, 5-inch rough from tip to toe at Oakmont, every part, whether it's off the tee, approach play, all going to have to be at the top to compete here. So you're going to see all 4 stat categories in terms of your core shots gained metrics always included at this sort of a golf course, but it does side towards the ball striking side of things. And typically approach play is always going to be number 1 in our modeling. That is going to be the case for this week, but the approach profile a little bit different than what we'd see on tour. There's not that many shots from 125 to 175. Those middle irons, those shorter irons that are used a bunch at other tour stops are almost non-existent around here. Really, it's either the short par 4s where you're hitting a wedge shot in, or a lot of shots from 175 plus, and even a lot of shots from 200 plus yards around at Oakmont Country Club. So the iron distribution definitely skews a little bit longer than what we typically see. Off the tee, it is a very balanced test though. So while power in terms of your approach play can be a real big advantage, off the tee, you have to keep it in play. You've got that 5-6-inch rough, fescue area ditches that could be hackouts or even unplayables at times. So you got to keep it in the short stuff, but driving distance, you have a few drivable par 4s, also really long par 5s at Oakmont that you have to have a bunch of distance to get home into. There's factors and there's golf holes where both aspects of driving are going to be important. So your Rory's that can hit it long and straight, Ludwig Ober, Scotty Scheffler, of course, the poster child for that kind of a stat profile, are going to be at a massive advantage at this kind of golf course. Number 3 key stat would be bogey avoidance, so making sure that you can play strategically and avoid a lot of those big numbers. That's always going to be towards the top of an Oakmont model. We also got the putting in there, maybe towards the bottom half of it, so not as important as what we typically see in a lot of these weeks, but you do have some POA greens. You could also look at fast greens to try and find some success on top of your regular form heading in. Around the green important because even your best players are going to miss a whole bunch of greens when it gets firm and fast. Worth noting that early in the week, it is going to be a little bit softer, so don't be surprised if for the first few rounds, scoring is a little bit better than what you're expecting. But by the time you get to Saturday, Sunday, in 2016, it was the same kind of situation. It's going to be all hell unleashed. +3.5, +5 scoring averages that time. So the US Open, the around the green will come into play when that happens. Looking at some US Open history, always good with these long, rough golf courses. And in terms of your comp courses, it's a lot of the more difficult tracks that we have on the PGA Tour. Memorial, pretty similar driving test, API as well. Both par 72s though, so they have their own quirks and nuances. Genesis, same type of agronomy, also a very difficult par 71. And then the Masters, very different from the ball striking angle. No rough, wide open off the tee, as opposed to shoots in 5-inch rough at Oakmont. But the greens, which have a bunch of slope and undulation to them, are going to play similar to what you get at Oakmont from that perspective. So all these different tracks have their own characteristics that correlate to this sort of event, but it's worth noting that Oakmont, the US Open this year, is going to play unlike any golf course that we've really seen before. So that's why I'm not galaxy branding it with the model. It's a lot of the core stats, bogey avoidance mixed in, and then some comp course history on top of that, because realistically, the cream is going to rise to the top. When you have a track this difficult with so many ticking time bombs with the ball striking, the players that are in the top 5, top 10 of the official World Golf rankings are, I'm not going to to say all finish in the top 10, but it wouldn't surprise me of the top 10 players that at least half of them make up that top 5. This is that classic of a golf course. It is that high level of a golf course where you're going to see the world's best players find themselves in that top 3, top 5. So hopefully gives you guys an idea of exactly what I'm looking for in my plays this week. And now that we have that established, let's go through my exposure and the top pieces out here for the US Open. This is going to be a single bullet for me when it comes to outright, so I hate to bore you guys a bit, but Scottie Scheffler is our #1 core play, and the only outright bet I plan on taking. He's plus 275 to win on most sports books. I had to bet well over $1,000 to get the sort of action and return that I'm looking for on an outright betting card. So a very aggressive take. The only person I'm taking to win this event, and it's because I think he's the perfect course fit for an Oakmont. Long and straight pays around here. Second shot golf course. Outside of that, you have to be a good grinder. Scottie Scheffler's got that going as well, and the place where he putts the best. I mean, API, he's dominated on those greens. They tend to run really fast. He's putted well at Augusta National, the slopiest greens that you have in all the PGA Tour. These 14s, 15s on the stint meter are not going to phase a Scottie Scheffler. In fact, he's played his best golf on greens with this type of surface. So you can see the POA surface. He's a gainer for his career. He's been putting electric heading into this event, and over the last 24 rounds, his superpower has been the ball striking, gaining about 2.5 strokes per round of those categories. The only player that even sniffs that would be a Bryson, who is just under a 2 shots gained per round, and this is over a 6 event sample size. This isn't like he's been hot for the last few events and won a few of them. This has been Scottie Scheffler hot for a month and a half, a 2-month sample size. In fact, because he doesn't play every single week, almost a 3-month sample size where he's playing this ridiculous golf. Now, in Draftkings, the one huge drawback here would be the price tag. He does cost $14,000, which was half the reason I wanted to bet him to win, because it is going to take away a lot of opportunity cost, a lot of salary with the rest of your players down the board. We do have a 5K range this week, which does soften up the pricing just a bit to make that kind of a price tag work. But the outright market, you don't have those same kind of concerns. You're paying the price tag with that plus 275. But if you're going to go with a single bullet, then I think Scottie Scheffler is by far the best player that you could do it with. So whether it's in DFS, I do think he's still going to carry some ownership even at that sort of a price tag. I'll use them at least the field, if not trying to get close to 1.5, 2x leverage. And then from the outright market, you guys know how much I like the guy at this golf course. So hasn't played here before, wasn't really in major championships back in 2016. So we'll see if the course fit is as good as I think it's going to be. But we're talking about somebody that does not have a weakness. He's made the putter a strength in 2025. He's been playing some of the best golf of anyone in the world, best golf of his career over the last few months. I mean, I don't think it's that mind-blowing or should be that surprising that I want to play them for that single bullet outright. So not to say that these 10, 11K players are all going to be fades for me. There's going to be at least one of them I know for sure that I'm mixing into lineups as well. So Scottie Scheffler will not be a lock in my DFS lineups, especially at that sort of price tag. Probably the most I'd use Scottie this week would be in about 50% of my lineups, because the salary component could really take you off of some good plays. Let's say Scottie doesn't win and it is somebody else towards the top. Well, you're probably going to have them. But even if it is Scottie that wins, and let's say it's just, like I said before, the cream rising to the top, a lot of those top 10 players in the world finishing in that top 5, top 10, then that's balanced salary where you're able to take 2, 3, maybe even 4 guys from 8K plus towards the top end of the board here might be advantageous over spending all of your salary on the Scottie Scheffler and maybe only getting 2, maybe 3 guys towards the top end of the board. So because of that aspect, it is kind of a unique slate. We've never had them this expensive before for a main slate. It's I think a slightly different dynamic that we're going to have to consider there as well. Just to remind you guys to find these spreadsheets with every single piece of modeling, every single projection for people in this 156-man field, make sure to check out my Patreon page. There's a link to it in the description of this video. On there, you can download these sheets completely uncensored, and on there, you guys can get every piece of analysis that I have for these golf tournaments, not just the majors, but every event on the PGA Tour schedule. I give you guys my modeling, projections, and player pool for every single slate. not just main slate for all of these main golf tournaments, but also for Showdown and rounds 2 through 4. So if you're somebody that likes playing Showdown for Friday through Sunday, you get those spreadsheets on top of what you see right here at a lot of my content, and it evolves throughout the week. If the golf course, we tend to get a little bit of a different read on it, I will change up the modeling and account for that for my Patreon members. And also you get projected ownership, which is key for making game theory decisions in those large field GPPs. And as a 150 max or a pro that plays every single slate for PGA DFS, you get an idea of exactly where my exposure is. And it doesn't mean you have to directly tail my exact player pool, but it gives you the perspective onto where a pro player is going with their exposure, and where I'm getting leverage, where I'm making fades. Gives you an idea of the thought process of somebody that's playing every single slate, so that you can improve yourself and become a better player of your own. So check out the Patreon page if you guys haven't already for my take on every single player in this field. But next up, we got Tommy Ladd as our next bet, and like I said, only a single bullet with the outright, so these are going to be all placements going forward. But Tommy Ladd at $8,800 for the top 5 at plus 650 is a perfect course fit around Oakmont. And I don't think it's a golf course where you have to be a bomber off the tee, which is going to play into his skill set, more of an accuracy first player in that category. But with the second shot in, he is exactly what we wanted around in Oakmont. He's a great iron player, especially from 175 plus, which I would say is the most important category that we have around here. But even more than that, he's a grinder, one of the best around the green players that we have in the world. And on fast POA greens, he's had some of the best results of his entire career. So you can see over here, he's number 9 in the total mono ranking, which is pretty appropriate for the $8,800 range. He's played some really good golf lately, had some top 5, top 10s, and still looking for that elusive victory. So yeah, not going to bet him to win his first event at a major, but a top 5 is well within his range of outcomes. He's done it plenty of times in major championships before. And really what I've noticed about Tommy Ladd is that the harder the golf course, the more that you have to grind it out, the better course fit that it is for him. Almost every time we're at a course where the winning score is near par or single digits under par, he's like top 5, at least top 10, top 20 in every single event where you have that. So it's just the quintessential grinder, the best player, the best kind of mindset that you could get from a player that you want. I mean, he knows that par is going to be a good score this week. He has embraced that for his entire career. And over the last 24 measured rounds, these shots gain metrics are absolutely bulletproof, gaining across all 4 stat categories. You can see close to a half a stroke per round with the approach play. One of the best around the green players that you have in the entire world. And it's not like he's lit it up with the putter or anything, but even then is still gaining 1.5 strokes per round. Let's say he finds some magic on these POA greens, the fast greens you have around here, which suit his game quite well, kind of like a Scotty Scheffler towards the top, then we could really have a spike week from Tommy Fleetwood here. And I don't know, I was joking with a buddy of mine mentioning that maybe he gets his first win at a major. I don't see it. I'm not going to put my money behind that sort of outcome, but it is the perfect situation for that thing to kind of happen. And I think a guy like Fleetwood would want to see the wind kick up at some point. As of right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be too blustery, but we know weather forecasts can change at the last second. And if there's carnage over the weekend at Oakmont, Tommy Fleetwood could be the type of player to take advantage of that. So give me him at a US Open. I always play him at these harder golf courses, and this time around is not going to be any different. Next up, we got Shane Lowry at $7,800. I took him for the top 10 at plus 400, and the last time we played at Oakmont, he was your 54-hole leader. He was at -7, by far the best score at the top end of the board, and he kind of choked on Sunday. So a little bit unfortunate for Shane Lowry and all his fans that he ended up giving that away, but he's also a very solid course fit around here. He's accurate off the tee, has that second shot down. We know he's got one of the best short games in the entire world, and on the faster greens, he tends to find a lot of success. Maybe it's because of his pop stroke. He's a little timid, I would say, with his speed, but on greens that are running 14, 15, I mean, you saw the result the last time around. He was just lighting it up on the greens around Oakmont, and this year at courses like the Masters, other fast greens, he's had some of his better weeks, and he's had some down weeks as well at some of those golf courses. He's a little bit hit or miss when it comes to that category, but for a top 10 in a major championship at plus 400, we don't necessarily need a spike performance. We need just a respectable performance on the greens, and considering how he fared at this golf course the last time around, I think that there's a good chance that we're able to get that in 2025. And if we go to the shots gain metrics over the last 24 rounds, you'll see exactly why you'd want to play a Lowry. He's gaining about a stroke per round with the approach play. Not the longest player, but does hit quite a few fairways, which should play around Oakmont. spot. And then the short game at least could leave a little bit to be desired with the shots gained putting. But these greens in the past have been perfect for Shane Lowry. So I'm going to play the bounce back. Was in contention at Sunday at the RBC Canadian Open before imploding a little bit on the back nine. I don't know if I could take the stones. It could really go out there and bet him to win an event like this. I know he won at Royal Portrush, going there for the Open Championship for this year. But the top 5, top 10, I think that's a lot more realistic from the Irishman. So somebody that models out quite well. You can see he's number 28 in the total model ranking. So there's actually guys that are a little bit better when you're taking a look at the stat profile. But that doesn't account for course history. That doesn't account for some of the advanced analytics like we have with his putting performance on these greens in the past, which is why I'm a little bit more bullish on him than maybe what you see with the models towards the right. Next up, we got our value plays is starting to get a little bit further down towards the bottom end of the board. And we got Jordan Spieth here at 7,500, which a lot of you that have been following the channel for a while might be rolling your eyes right now knowing that I'm a big Jordan Spieth fan and that is why I'm betting this. However, he's just a value on paper. He should not be $7,500. He's playing just as good a golf, if not better golf, than a lot of the other guys around him. I'd argue that Straka's an even better value, but unfortunately for Straka, he's going to be mega chalk this week. I also think that a Henley, a Bradley are really good values. Corey Connors, who is going to be a part of this video in just a few minutes. But Jordan Spieth, I would argue, and this is maybe a hot take, maybe it's not for some people, is on the same level as these other guys, not Straka. Straka's on another level. There's a reason why he's going to be mega chalk this week. But compared to like your Henleys, your Bradleys, your Cocos, they're not playing that much better than Jordan Spieth is. In fact, I think Jordan Spieth is playing better with the shots gained metrics, and he's not getting nearly as much respect as some of those other guys around him. And long term, he's the player that has the best major championship track record out of all of those players. He's the one that's won the most tour events out of all of these players. I'm very partial to Jordan Spieth. I try and play him as much as humanly possible, but now that he's figured out the driving accuracy, which is going to be a really big key around Oakmont, we need grinders. I mean, he's one of the best grinders of all time, one of the best around the green players that we have of all time. And where does he do his best stuff with the putting? At Augusta National, the super fast, super slopey greens like you're going to get at Oakmont Country Club. I think that there's a much better course fit here than most people would realize. And just take a look at the results this year. He's raised his floor. He's no longer having a lot of those stud performances, and he's still having a big blow-up round almost every single golf tournament. He's having 2 to 3 excellent rounds, though, at almost every single golf tournament as well. If he can put it together for 3 of the 4 rounds, that might be enough to pay off a $7,500 price tag, but God forbid if he finds a way to put it together for all 4 rounds. I'm not going to bet him to win this sort of event, but a top 5, a top 3 is within his range of outcomes. So top 10 bet, maybe a little bit more realistic at plus 550. And the added bonus here, this is a DFS show as well, right? Not just from the betting angle, is that he's going to be a lot lower owned than guys like a Sepp Straka. So Straka, who might be well over 20% owned. It's Monday. It's going to be far too early to really have an idea on exact ownership projections, but Jordan Spieth, I'm imagining sub 10% ownership. I'm not expecting a whole bunch of people to want to get there. Guys like Henley, well over 10%, I'd imagine. Keegan Bradley, at least 10, maybe a little bit over 10% ownership. He's going to be somebody that you can take, get different to the field with, and I would argue is one of the better plays that you have in this range. So yeah, as a fan, makes it really easy to want to play him, especially as my favorite player, getting to see him in person this week. But I've also had a pretty good track record with watching my guy Spieth in person and finding a way to get him into that top 5, top 10. So hopefully he can do that again. Have yet to see him win in person, which he's had so many second places when I've been there that it's a little bit hurtful. But yeah, that top 10, hey, second place would pay that off, so we'll be good there. Next up, we got Corey Connors at $7,300. His top 10 number is actually even shorter than Jordan Spieth. So in terms of the salary value, you're talking about one of the best plays on the slate in Corey Connors. So I do think he's going to get some ownership, but I don't think he's going to be chalky. And the main reason for that is how he played at the Canadian Open. Because of that, he's only number 30 in the field in total model ranking. A lot of people looking at recent form are going to get thrown off by Coco. And I know the casual sentiment this week is going to be, oh, he couldn't even play well at his home National Open. What makes you think he's going to play well at the US Open? Well, a couple things when it comes to that. First off, that golf course did not fit his game. You could just be a bomber, hit it all over the park if you wanted to, and you got away with it at TPC Toronto. Corey Conners plays well at courses where driving accuracy is rewarded. He hits the ball straight as an arrow, straighter than train smoke, as some would say. And also, you play Corey Conners when he's not dealing with a whole lot of pressure. He's a Sunday choker. You've seen it a few times before, but he was playing at his home National Open. He was obviously going to be dealing with nerves just like a lot of the other Canadians were. I mean, look at Pendrith Hughes over the last few days. They kind of fell apart there, which, it's not really their fault. Golf's a mental game. That aspect can work against players. And at the US Open now, he's got no expectations. No one's talking about Coco hitting him this week. No one thinks that he's going to win this kind of golf tournament. I don't think he's going to win this golf tournament either, but for the top 10 at plus 475, I like a player that's playing freely, a fantastic course fit, and if we go to the shots gained metrics, just want to show this on Spieth as well. It's beautiful. This is why I think he's so disrespected. Look at him versus Sepp Straka. Sepp Straka, by the way, multiple wins this year. I understand why he's chalked, gaining 1.4 shots gained per round. Sure, approach play looks amazing at 1.2 strokes. Jordan Spieth has been 0.1 strokes worse per round than Sepp Straka over the last 24 rounds. That's a 6-event sample size. That is a massive sample size that you're working with. And you're telling me that Spieth's going to be sub 10% in Straka. My guy. I hit on the outrights this year, so I love him a whole bunch for getting that done. But Jordan Spieth should not be a third of the ownership of Sepp Straka. But to get to the play we're talking about now, let's go through Coco. Over the last 24 measured rounds, gaining over a stroke per round with the ball striking is the best number other than Ben Griffin, about tied with Ben Griffin over that 24-round sample size. Short game, though, has been where he's fallen off a bit, and he is not the best around the green player. Now that we're starting to get to the 6-7K range, we're not going to have perfect plays at this portion of the board, but he is the type of player that when he gets into contention, it's because he's hitting a whole bunch of fairways. That's great around Oakmont, avoiding that 5-inch rough, and because he's hitting a whole bunch of greens in regulation. With the rain that they're getting on Monday, I do think these elite tier iron players are going to have a chance to hit more greens than what you saw in 2016, which is Corey Conners hits. That's his avenue to success, right? Is not to be a grinder, save up and par a whole bunch. It's just to not miss any greens and not have that many up and down opportunities, which I think he could get done. He's shown us that ability before. And one of the value plays that you can use at $7,300 to help spend up for Scotty Scheffler at $14,000 plus. So again, if you're going to use Scotty in lineups, you're going to have to like a lot of these 7K range guys because the salary component is just so prohibitive with Scotty. And then lastly, the last play we're going to go through here is going to be Patrick Reed at $6,900, and I bet him for a top 10 at plus 750. And before we talk about why I think he's a good course fit here, why he actually makes sense, the narrative angle must be spoken on too. Masters, everyone wanted to play him because of his course history. He kind of sucked there. He wasn't terrible, but PGA Championship, he sucked, right? Quail Hollow did not have the kind of performance that I hoped for. A lot of people were hoping for. No one's going to use him here. I'm talking about sub 10% ownership for sure. Probably sub 7% ownership on a Patrick Reed. He's been playing great golf on the LIV Tour. He's been one of the top 5, top 10 players on that tour for most of the season. And at $6,900, he's super cheap. Again, another guy you could use in Scotty Scheffler lineups because of the salary component there, and he's an ultimate grinder. He's been pretty good with the irons this year. He's not an overly long player, which you can kind of get away with around Oakmont. Some holes, it's great to have that power, but you don't have to have it for the entire golf course. If he could just hit a few more fairways than what he's used to this week, the rest of the golf course is perfect for him. He's a second shot player. If it's not Jordan Spieth as the best around the green player in the world, maybe Justin Thomas. Patrick Reed is in that top 3 conversation as well. And on these fast Poe greens, first off, Poe, it's been very good for Patrick Reed. He's won at the Farmers Insurance Open, Torrey Pines before, same sort of greens, very fast, undulating surfaces. And he's also played about the Masters with those same sort of greens going as well. And that's why everyone wanted to play him this year at those 2 events. I can just tell you now, because people are a little emotional when it comes to their PGA DFS plays, they get burned by somebody, they have a hard time wanting to go back the next time. And maybe that's the one thing I do the best when it comes to playing PGA DFS is I forgive and forget as quickly as humanly possible. Golf is a sport with a whole bunch of variance. For example, if people want to crucify Rory after his missed cut at the RBC Canadian Open, and if he's looking like he's going to be sub 15% ownership this week, then yeah, you bet your ass I'm going to be playing Rory McIlroy in DFS because, these plays that we talk up here, they tend to be the ones that I have the most conviction with, my outright betting card, guys that I'll use despite the ownership. But with the rest of my player pool, especially in those large field GPPs, the big $5, $25 GPPs, I'm actively looking to get leverage against the rest of the field. So that's where guys like Rory come into play. That's why I like some of these lower owned players that we were mixing in, like Jordan Spieth, for example, Patrick Reed, who should be sub 7-8% owned, that you're using to get that leverage versus the rest of the field. So these are some of the plays that I like the most. I will be using them regardless of where they come in with the ownership. Hopefully lower owned than I'm expecting on some of them, because to be able to get more leverage would be a good thing. But for the rest of my player pool, for every single bet, every piece of modeling that I have on this spreadsheet, check out the Patreon page, guys. Again, link down below, and let's have ourselves a week. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the DFS and betting breakdown. I'll be heading to Pittsburgh tomorrow, so gonna have plenty of boots on the ground content for all of you guys out there. Smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Also, subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss any of that information when it comes. We're gonna have our Wednesday live streams. That'll be a DFS stream on the Ship It Nation channel. Also, we're gonna have our prop live stream going on Wednesday night as well. So stay tuned for all of that, getting you guys ready for exactly what to do this week and have yourselves a week. And also, go ahead, comment down below who you've got as your winner for this golf tournament, and if they're at least 30-1, so you're looking at long shots pretty much for this outright bet. Give me your long shot of the week, and if they happen to get the job done, a lot of variance around Oakmont. So I know I bet Scotty Scheffler, but there's a lot that could go wrong around this sort of golf course. Get that long shot and you'll win a free month access to the Patreon for free. And it's going to be on a first come, first serve basis. So if you want one of the guys that are close to 30-1, go ahead, guess them before anyone steals that player from you. Best of luck with the giveaway. Best of luck with all the exposure that you guys are getting to, whether it's in large field GPPs. I hope to see your names towards the top end of those contests, or it's with your outright betting card or placements. Let's cash out, get into the profit, and help pay for this Oakmont trip, which is costing me an arm and a leg to get up there. But I'm super stoked to be back in my hometown. Of course, I'm super familiar with. Get to visit some friends, family that are from the area. It's gonna be one of the best weeks of my life. I can pretty much say that before I get there. Everything kind of aligning up for it, and regardless of how it goes from the betting card or DFS angle, it's going to be an absolute blast. But if we can make it a good one from that angle, then I mean, it'd be the cherry on top of what should be an absolutely epic week. But that's all I've got, guys. Best of luck out there with everything that you guys are going with, and I'll see you guys throughout the week for some of that content.